Hey everyone, I just wanted to post my initial thoughts on the AEW Games presentation that premiered on YouTube last night. I thought this was a fantastic little gem. From start to finish, it was really enjoyable. I loved all the little tributes to E3 and Apple presentations. I noticed Kenny Omega was dressed as Steve Jobs right away, and I thought that was going to be a little in-joke. Of course, it turned out to be a running joke, and I thought that was brilliant. It's pretty clear they know their market. The humour worked really well throughout. They're not trying to be anything they're not, which definitely works in their favour when they're trying to appeal to a video game audience. But on to the actual games, which were obviously the meat of the presentation. It's always been a no-brainer for them to go back to the WoW of No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000, WCW NWO Revenge, and use that game engine. It was something I predicted, like so many predicted, as soon as this company announced they were making games about 2 years ago. I think they first teased it. It's obviously a very clever idea, because they've already got a market for it. Even if you don't watch wrestling today, but you played those games as a kid on the N64, you're immediately interested in playing this game. I thought the game looked fantastic. It was literally like a HD remaster. I've already seen some negative comments online saying these graphics won't cut it in 2020 or 2021, wherever it comes out. But I disagree. I think people like retro, people like a throwback, people like old school. Also, by the way, I love the funny little video where they showed Kenny Omega and Moxley, sorry, I couldn't think his name, in that really rubbish 8-bit. I kind of felt that was a dig at the recent wrestling games, which have an 8-bit filter, but it doesn't quite look right. I don't know. Well, I hope that comes on Unlockable feature, because that'd be really fun. The thing that makes going back, as I said, to this WoW of the N64 era professional wrestling video games is it's kind of like the forgotten note of history, that part of the reason that WCW overtook the then WWF in the ratings was because WCW had such cooler video games. So even if you weren't watching wrestling, you were probably playing the games, and they were so much more cooler. WCW NWO World Tour, WCW NWO Revenge were brilliant, brilliant games that still hold up to this day. So I think they were very clever in the sense that they've gone back. I know WWE like to rewrite history to make out that WCW was rubbish and it was awful and everyone hated it. That's not true. It was only like that for the last 12 months. During the mid-90s, it was brilliant, and they dominated, not because they had a superior television and pay-per-view product, they also had a superior home video console product. And again, this is a clever little way which they've tapped into something that WWE are missing out on. The thing that surprised me the most was the General Manager game is a mobile-only game. This game was seemingly leaked hours before, although Tony Khan more or less confirmed it this past weekend on his media scrum. But yeah, I would have thought this would have been like a PC game, with a lot more depth. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's still got lots of depth, but I would have thought this would have made it onto the console PC game. I understand mobile gaming is a huge part of the game industry these days. I'm not a massive mobile gamer, but at the same time I do recognise how significant it is. Obviously it gives them a chance for microtransitions, which some people roll their eyes at, but I would say in the current climate, with not being able to do big shows because of COVID-19, I fully understand why they would lean towards something which has microtransitions to try and make money. And if nothing else, it just funds the project of AEW Games. The biggest disappointment from this presentation for me was the last game, because we saw so little of it. I know it's coming out soon, but they obviously went all out for this real swanky trailer, and yet we didn't actually really see what it was. On the surface, it looks like it's going to be a casino-style game, but if the leaks were anything to go by, it's going to be more like a collectible card game. So I wish we had a little bit more verification on that. If it's a casino game, I mean, again, we're talking microtransitions. I worry that it might get some real negative feedbacks for encouraging gambling, because I don't know. I'm just worried that, you only get so many goes and you have to pay to get more, and you are essentially gambling to do that. But I don't know. I'm pretty sure they know what they're doing and they thought this out. Going back to the main game, which is the thing which has got everyone excited. Obviously, we saw 3 members of the roster, and at the end, it obviously teased the Young Bucks. We know who's going to be on this game. Let's face it, it's going to be the bulk of the roster. It isn't the case of like years ago you only had so many on. I would say if you are a regular active on AEW Dynamite, you're in this video game. I think the idea to allow intergender wrestling was a great first sell. I think it's a real big problem in modern professional wrestling games. You can't do intergender wrestling because WWE like to rewrite their history, even though intergender wrestling was like a huge part of the Attitude Era. I beg anyone to find me the pops as big as when Lita used to hurricane a man. But hey, WWE have got a history of, rewriting their history, quite literally. So I think that was a very fun first sell. It put across an idea right at the start. So that trailer, it just worked really well, the trailer. It had a bit of everything in it. In terms of what I think the game will have, well, obviously it's going to have all your standard match types. I'm guessing we're going to see something which makes you travel the world. I find it very hard to believe that if Kenny Omega's got anything involved in this game, that we're not going to see some Japanese arenas. And which brings me on to the next point of Legends, or DLC for this game. Because I just get the feeling that the DLC/Legends section is going to be incredible. For example, just a couple of weeks ago it came out that Sting is no longer under contract to the WWE and he owns his name. And of course, you've got to wonder, does Dusty Rhodes feature in this game? Now, I know what you're thinking. WWE own the names to the rights. Yes, they do. But he had several other gimmicks in his time. And Cody is very hot on trademarks. And I get the feeling that he's going to know exactly what name to use him as, which he won't get into trouble. Obviously, people like Rock and Roll Express, I believe, they own their names. And there's lots of other NWA-style talent out there who own their own names. And I think we're going to see a fantastic roster. All in all, I thought this was a fantastic presentation. I'm really excited for all the games, even though, like I said, we never found out much about the last game. But according to them, it's coming out this winter. I hope it comes out pre-Christmas. Did you find the words winter interesting? Which makes me think January, February time. But we'll see. I think, unlike WWE, they are going to use the video games and the current product hand in hand. I know WWE do it a little bit, but they don't do it nowhere near as much. I feel that we're going to see what's going on television being reflected in the games and vice versa. I'm really hyped for the games, all of them. And for a lot of people, this is like a dream wrestling game. And yeah, huge thumbs up. They've hit it out the park. Fantastic. Well done, AEW Games. This is a very exciting development for wrestling games.